On this week's episode, I am speaking with Mike Hollow. Mike currently runs a business called Majik Treats, an online bakery that started off delivering various brownies and cakes, but has quickly grown its menu and means of delivery. I discussed with Mike how this came about and its rapid growing success. But what I know Mike most for, as well as being a former colleague, is his YouTube channel, formerly named the Hollowverse. In there he discusses various video game related news stories and occasionally posts game reviews and other content. We also dip into another channel he's set up called Fright Bite and discusses his competitive history in playing in certain fighting games like Mortal Kombat, where he has actually won various tournaments. I should warn viewers that this episode discusses much of the state of the video games industry and how it has become noticeably politicized. For that reason, I should give you a trigger warning now, as there will be many things that not all of you will agree with. On top of that, I should also give you folks a spoiler warning, as key plot events in both games of the Last of Us series get discussed. Now with that out of the way, please enjoy.
Jack?
Hey, how's it going, Mike? You alright?
Yeah, not bad, bro. How are you?
Yeah, all good, man. All good. Thanks for agreeing to do this. I know you've been very busy in your evenings, what with Majik Treats and all that. But how you been, man? It's been a while.
Yeah, it's good to see you, man. You're one of the few people that I wish I stayed in better contact with from PlayStation. So it's been busy, but we've been good. We've been good just trying to get through this bullshit, you know?
No, I think we all are in our own ways, just trying to stay productive given the circumstances. And look, don't feel too bad about not staying in touch. I kind of chose to be a bit secluded, starting the whole family life thing and all that. Couldn't make any too many sort of bar appearances and various reunions. Yeah, to be honest though, like I don't miss our days doing PlayStation support. Like I miss some of the people, but not the job. Not the job.
The job was all right for me. It was okay. I think, you know, like I mean, obviously it could have been better at times, but I didn't really go to too many of the reunions. I went to a few of them, but I didn't stay in contact with anyone outside of maybe like 3 or 4 people.
Yeah. Well, that's what Facebook's good for. Still, though, it provided an interesting insight into the video game industry, even if it was just kind of a small part of it, like a small cog in a much more bigger machine, as it were.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, how's everything going like Majik Treats? I mean, this would be probably a good way just to, just to basically tell us like how that all got started, because it just sort of came out of nowhere. And all of a sudden, I'm seeing you posting all these photos of essentially food porn. It started from like brownies and then it just kept escalating to like cakes and then cinnamon rolls and all kinds of things. And I've already had 2 orders from you, and I enjoyed the well, anytime anyone puts like Nutella or Oreo on things, you've already won me.
Yeah. Well, basically my girlfriend is like a really amazing cook and baker. And I remember it was on my birthday, I think last year. I think it was last year. She made me this cake, and my entire family loved it. And I think it was from then we've been egging her on constantly to make cakes and whatnot. I didn't know that she was better at making brownies. So I think one day like someone had one of her brownies, and it kind of just picked up pace real quick. It just came out of nowhere really. And we had a taste session at my house. A couple people came down. Everyone said that they were amazing. And then after that, we created business cards. We made the logo. We did everything really quickly, and then we just started posting. Everyone was very supportive. People like we launched around Christmas, and I'm not even joking. We didn't really sit down the entire time. Especially Madge, she was on her feet constantly, and I was dealing with the orders and people paying in. So it was sort of like a meteoric rise, and it's just kept going since then.
Yeah, it has, and it's been very effective. I mean, you found yourself a competent delivery driver for a start, so you already started delivering to even outside the London areas as well. It started, I think, understandably, big Instagram presence, some Facebook presence, and other sites. You've recently launched your own site now recently as well, so congrats on that.
Yeah, thank you. So it took us about a month to put together, but it's going well as well. We're not trying to jump the gun too far, because obviously the way the world is right now, you never know what's going to happen. But thankfully, we remain popular with people. So we've just before I came on the call, I was sorting out an order for Watford tomorrow. So yeah, it's just going. We're happy with it. I can't complain.
Are you operating that on a sort of a part-time basis? Because you mentioned it takes up a lot of your evenings, or how's it work at the moment?
So because of um, the way the world is right now, I'm on furlough. So a lot of my time can go into helping Madge out with Magic Treats. Now that things are supposedly going to be opening up, I guess more of the pressure is going to be on her because I'm going to be returning to work, and she's also a doctor as well. So it's going to be difficult for us to juggle everything. I don't know where the business is going to go from here. The problem is that it's getting bigger and bigger, and things are becoming more busy for us. So we're going to try and work out a new system that will allow us to continue doing it.
Jeez, I mean, imagine just sort of like starting up something and it just gets like uber successful and bigger than you anticipated.
Yeah.
I can't. I imagine it's it's had its fair share of stress.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean, we've been a really good team. Obviously, every team at some point comes to blows, but thankfully, me and Madge work really well together. So it's been fun and it's been nice because everyone's been so supportive and they've sort of chosen us over other bakeries, which no one has to do. There's established bakeries out there already, so it's nice to see people are supporting small businesses, especially during this time.
Well, I can't think of many bakeries that deliver as late as like 9 or 10 p.m. at night. You
Yeah,
guys sorted me out on I think it was close to Christmas. Anyways, I'm just like, yeah, I'll have this. And your boy was there like within the hour, basically. So that was
yeah,
very fucking effective.
that's
Um,
yeah.
yeah, I mean, no, whatever you've done, whatever you sort of set up, it's doing its job and probably a bit too well.
Yeah, we just didn't anticipate it being like this. But me and Madge are both the kinds of people where if we're gonna do something, we're just gonna go 100 miles per hour straight away and treat it as serious as possible. And thankfully, I think through our efforts of treating it like a serious business from the get-go, people took us seriously, and we've had regular customers ever since. We come down to Watford very often to do deliveries, and it's expanded all over the UK now. So we've had deliveries in Scotland,
Oh,
we've had them in
nice.
Ireland, we've gone to Wales. Pretty much every corner of the UK, we've had some sort of presence.
That's actually very good. I didn't even realize you were doing it nationwide now. That's actually pretty remarkable. I mean, you're no stranger to like getting a bit philosophical here. You're no stranger to just starting up things from scratch and then just sort of like building it up, basically. Whether it's your this YouTube channel, just any kind of online presence. I mean, I don't know if you can answer this, but what kind of sort of mindset sort of goes into just going in kind of all guns blazing?
I had a conversation with one of my friends he's also a very big events organizer. And I said to him once, and it sort of resonated with him. I said to him that I think that caring what people think is almost a mental illness because if you care
Yes.
about what people think, you're not going to do what you want to do. You're always going to worry about how you're perceived by the public. And for me, I've since for a long time now, I've not cared really what most people think. So with YouTube, for example, I started off by being another voice on the internet ranting about video games, and it's obviously a very saturated market. And I got a lot of like flack for that. I had a lot of people on Twitter saying to me, "Oh, you should just shut up." But I've always been of the mindset where if I want to say something, I'm just gonna say it, and if I want to do something, I'm just gonna do it. So I think people need to get into the habit of not caring what other people think. At least that's what works for me anyway.
Yeah, or at least just thinking for yourself. And I don't think Twitter is probably the best place to go for freedom of thought all that much.
Yeah, no, that freedom of the whole freedom of thought thing is sort of out the window. And if you don't comply with like the status quo or whatever, people are very quick to throw you under the bus. But me not caring what people think has also I guess it's drawn people to me because I'll say things that maybe my friends don't have the balls to say, or maybe they're worried about some sort of like I don't know. I don't really get it. I don't get the mindset that people I don't know how you can live your life caring what other people think, especially when these people don't really have an impact on your life. So that's the mindset I take into everything.
Yeah. Plus, the internet has kind of got a history of just sort of like troll accounts and just people shit posting here and there as well. Unfortunately, it's without going too deep on that subject, it's kind of escalated to the point where it's influencing quite a lot. So yeah,
Yeah, it's
I'm
I think it comes down to upbringing as well. There's a lot of things that you could say that why people don't pursue certain things. Even if you're destined to fail on whatever you're doing, I still think you should put your best foot forward and give it a shot. Because at the end of the day, if people are hating on you, I mean, people are always gonna hate, right? It's this you're never gonna have it one way. So you should just do what you're doing.
We'll touch upon especially your YouTube channel, but I kind of want to just bring it back to Majik Treats. I mean, I don't know if you can answer it, like the numbers game, but I mean, what's the largest amount of orders you've done in a single night?
So it's either going to be between Christmas or Valentine's Day, but I think we did around 20 orders in one day. Might have been 25. I just remember that I was just loading orders into the driver's car, and the car was getting packed, and we were worried that because we had so many orders in so many different parts of London and Watford and Hemel Hempstead and St. Albans and wherever, that we were worried that people weren't going to get their treats in time. And I kid you not, we started in the morning and we finished delivering by maybe like midnight.
Oh,
So it would
wow.
be between 20 and 30 orders in one day, I think.
Yeah, and those are not small orders as well. It's not just sort of like putting stuff into a box. Like having received one of these before, it's a nice sort of carefully crafted package that you sort of send out as well. It's very, very, very nicely presented as well. So a lot of effort goes into each and every one of those, I'm guessing.
Yeah, and that has nothing to do with me. That's all Mad. She does the baking, she does the boxes. She's the one that makes it. I was of the mentality that I knew her food tasted good, and I don't particularly care how my food shows up as long as it tastes good. I'll eat it. But she really pushed the presentation thing. So making sure the goods were baked on time, that was all her. The packaging was all her. She did the research on that. So like all of the praise should go towards her. I sort of just dealt with speaking to people or dealing with money or handling the spreadsheet or stuff like that.
Mm. Well, it shows. I mean, the effort's definitely paid off. And yeah, I mean, what do you got planned for the future in regards? I mean, anything you can sort of share with us now whilst we're on the subject?
I don't know if I'm officially allowed to share, but I will anyway. Um, we're there's a couple new treats that we're looking at doing soon. We've got we did some taste testing the other day, and Madge took a swing at making pancakes, and honestly, they were the best pancakes I've ever tried in my life. So we thought, let's just go crazy with the toppings and let people decide whatever they want to get on it. They can get 100 toppings on there if they want. So we're gonna look into bringing out pancakes soon. Again, they're done. Madge has done them in her own style. They're not the regular pancakes you'll get somewhere else. So that's something that we're looking into. And then in general, it's just like general expansion, like um, the general road that a business follows with expanding and reaching new territories.
It's amazing. I'm looking forward to that. Before I forget, it just remember this as well. For a short time, you had sort of like a collaboration with was it like a cocktail bar or something like that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my brother and my sister-in-law own a cocktail business called Cocks on the Rocks. They're really popular on Instagram, and we thought it'd be really cool for us to collaborate because we had quite a bit of interest with people saying it would be nice to have a drink with my brownie. So over Valentine's Day, we collaborated with them, and it went really well, and their business is doing really well as well. So yeah, we've had loads of offers from different businesses to buy our brownies and have them in their shops or collaborate. And we're a little bit picky about where we send our stuff, but their cocktails we felt were up to par of the kind of standard we wanted to put out there. So we collaborated them over Valentine's Day, and it went really well.
God damn, it must run in the family, you know. It's just,
Yeah,
it's just from one business owner to another, I guess. But no, because I looked at that, I'm thinking, God damn, they're really sort of tempting people. You know, you got these bright sort of colored cocktails, and then you got all these really unique treats alongside that. Yeah, that's come on, who's going to turn their nose up at that, especially on Valentine's Day,
yeah,
especially when most people are at home as well. It's kind of like a no-brainer option. Have this shit delivered to you. Job done.
exactly. It's the prime time to get some cocktails and brownies.
Uh, don't know about you, but my alcohol intake has increased since we were locked down again. So
I'm still a
uh,
lightweight, so I tried to stay away from it.
you're a better man than me when it comes to sobriety, definitely. Now we touched on it earlier, but the YouTube channel. First of all, like it went by the name the Hollowverse originally, but now it's reverted to your name. Yeah, so I mean, anyone searching for it can, search Mike Hollow. It still comes up when you search the Hollowverse. I mean, can you comment on the name change or no?
Yeah, so I didn't know what name to go with originally, and it started off as just me playing fighting games and uploading matches. There was no real like commentary on them. There was nothing really going on. Sometimes I would post thoughts about games I wanted to see. And then with the way the world was, and obviously when Trump was in office, politics sort of like bled into everything,
Oh yeah.
and
Oh
like
yeah.
games started becoming very like socially political, I guess, or socially woke or whatever. And I got sick of it, and I was like, you know, I'm just gonna put my name out there. I'm gonna slap my name on it, and I'm just gonna say how I feel about this stuff because I think people that people like me are told to behave a certain way or told to think a certain way, and I didn't really like what I was seeing from other gamers, with especially with the way games were going on video game companies. So I thought,
Yeah.
let me change up the channel a bit. Let me step away from just playing fighting games and let me upload my fighting game footage with commentary on some sort of topic that was going on. So then I just changed the name because I was like, let me be open about who's talking behind here so people know who it is. And it just went from there. In America, one angry gamer has been extremely vocal about their disdain for anything to do with what's happening right now. They seem to have lumped rioters and looters in with peaceful protesters, which is fine, you know, that's the way they want to look at it, that's their perspective. But they seem to have taken it a step further. Actually, it seems like they've taken it around 430 steps further, because any company and any person that has pointed out that racism is wrong and that they stand with the protesters has been labeled traitors of America. Now, it's important to note that I'm saying they're standing with the protesters, and that's what they've said, so that's what I'm going to go with. Whether you believe corporations are trying to like profit off of people, you know, that's another argument, and you know, they're probably valid in saying that, but I'm just going off the things that some people have said and some companies have said.
Yeah, because I've noticed this too, especially within the last 4 years, whether it was a result of Trump getting in office or something else. Yeah, a lot of culture, a lot of cultural media became very politicized.
Yeah.
Comics, films, and surprisingly, video games, as you pointed out. And it's becoming, to me, more noticeable. I mean, one of the things that you commented on was your review on The Last of Us Part 2. And a lot of the stuff you mentioned there, I actually agreed with. Like, you're talking about a sequel to one of the best reviewed, best selling games of the last generation. And what we got, it looked to me like a vanity project,
Uh,
shoehorned into the storyline with like a lot of real world politics. And the thing is, most people go to games or other types of media like that for an escape. And yeah, I just think that that kind of direction sort of diluted it a bit.
Yeah. That doesn't mean that we hate lesbians or butch women being at the forefront of the game. The game's story just sucks. Did this game succumb to wokeness? I think the fandom has at the very least. Somehow if you dislike this game, it's not because of the story, it's because you're a homophobe. And I think that's a really dumb straw man way to try and win an argument. It's not because a white male lead isn't there, it's because the story sucks, plain and simple. So in closing, is this a good game? I'm gonna have to say no. Like I said before, this is a linear story driven game, and as good as the gameplay may feel at times, as beautifully animated as the world and characters may be, or as good as the acting and voice acting is, because it is brilliant, that all falls down when the story is a pile of shit. And that's what it is, it's just a pile of shit. They try to teach you a lesson in this game and they fail miserably. It is an unsatisfying mess of a game that has ruined the franchise for many. So my take on The Last of Us was, so I've played Naughty Dog games since I think Naughty Dog is the ones that did Way of the Warrior, if I'm remembering the name of the game properly. So way back in the day, I was playing Naughty Dog games. So they've been one of my favorite developers since I was a child. So it wasn't like I had a vendetta against them. Most people can see that if you look at my playtime on PlayStation 4, Uncharted 4 was a lot of my playtime. So it wasn't like I had a vendetta against Naughty Dog. And I felt like I
No,
reviewed The Last of
I,
Us Part 2 fairly.
I
But
noticed you put Uncharted 4 in a lot of your videos as well. So I felt like, yeah, you were definitely coming at it from a fair and balanced sort of approach.
yeah, I
Fair enough.
always I always took Naughty Dog to be they were very much about their quality, and I just felt like The Last of Us 2 was too focused on pushing this, like they were like force feeding us this like these ideas, these left-wing ideas that I didn't didn't want to see tampered with the story. And I don't have a problem with like someone being left or right wing. I don't think I'm inherently either, but I didn't like how the story was so clearly like forced down a road that it just didn't make any sense. They sacrificed the integrity of Joel to replace him with Brock Lesnar, who I just found to be, I just found the whole like sacrificing of his character, because this was a guy that went through the apocalypse, very aware of his surroundings. They portrayed him as like the hero to Ellie, but the villain to a lot of people because he done what was necessary to survive. And then out of nowhere, he walks into a building, tells these strangers his name, and gets his face caved in by Brock Lesnar. And I just thought it was the stupidest thing that I'd ever seen. But I mean, I gave it its praise. That the gameplay was okay. It felt dated, but it wasn't bad. I just felt the story was, I mean, for lack of a better word, garbage. And I got a lot of hate for that. But I can't see how someone can tell me that story was coherent in any way.
Well, I think you were correct to point that out. And you were also correct to point out the Metacritic score of the game. I mean, even currently, there's still a very low user score on it in contrast with the critic score. I probably should have put a spoiler warning before this, but yeah, I'm no fan of the character Abby. I'm going to put it out there because, yes, you are right in saying that, Joel, you built up the entire game and, audiences kind of emphasized with playing as Joel, and you had this father-daughter relationship going on the narrative. And that, even as nasty, even as brutal as The Last of Us 1 was, you had that sort of narrative drive, that's kind of justification, and the ambiguity of its ending was, I think it was correctly placed. It was, you could either decide whether it was a good thing or a bad thing that happened at the end of the first game, but because it was left up to the player just to make their own mind about it, it was just like, oh, okay, fair enough.
Yeah, I actually thought that the ending of The Last of Us Part 1 was one of the best endings to a video game I've ever seen, because it actually left the player, it left you in a dilemma. Like, you can see why someone would say he's the bad guy, but you can completely understand why he did what he did. I put myself in his shoes and I was like, I would probably have done the same thing.
Yeah, me too. Me too, in fact.
I don't like, spoiler alert, the Last of Us Part 2's ending is one of the most unsatisfying things I've ever seen, because you go through this mess of a story and you're thinking to yourself, I'm finally going to get revenge on the person that killed basically my father figure. Not only does she get to her, but she gets her fingers ripped off and then she lets her go. And I was like, this is not a human reaction at all. That wasn't normal. And that whole game, it was like there was no payoff at all. I guess the feeling was to leave you feeling empty, but it went about it in the complete wrong way.
The whole game narrative and its premise of The Last of Us Part 2 just felt pointless and very nihilistic. Like,
Yeah.
the whole theme was revenge. The whole theme was just a long journey, a 30-hour revenge journey. And yeah, I don't think it was, I think it was intended to make you feel like shit. But the thing is, like, that isn't the first game to guilt trip players. It just didn't do it effectively. Like other games, like, do you remember a game called Spec Ops: The Line that was released in 2013? Did you ever play it?
I remember the name. I don't think I played it though.
Right, that did a very good job of basically almost stereotyping the sort of military hero coming in just to save like a disheveled city. But the more you act, the more harm you ended up doing in that game. And it had a very sort of the game narrative itself. It took influences from like the film Apocalypse Now and the novel Heart of Darkness. And I just think it was really well done. So if you get a chance, like if you don't intend on playing it, just watch like a big YouTube playthrough, and it's very well made in terms of a narrative. Like it does have a generic third-person shooter kind of mechanics going on to it, but very engaging stuff though. And that didn't pull its punches, whereas The Last of Us kind of did as well in some areas where it didn't skip on the brutality though. I mean, I remember shooting a guy in the head and all you hear is this fucking gargling sound as he dies. Like most games would have just had him drop dead, maybe a bit of blood splatter. No, they went to the extra effort of just making it really nasty.
Yeah,
really brutal.
I thought the design of The Last of Us Part 2 that in some areas was really cool. Like I remember I was hiding from the people looking for me and I set a mine down and a dog walked on it and you hear the dog squeal as whatever explodes.
Oh yeah.
I remember the sound effects were really good, but I don't mind having a story about revenge, and I don't mind a movie, a game, or a comic making you feel like shit, because I mean, like I'm a big fan of like the Injustice comic, and I
Oh
like
yeah,
horror films that have sad endings. I actually prefer a horror film that has a bad ending than a good ending. But
yeah.
I just feel like they told a bad revenge story, and I don't mind the game being controversial either. I mean, 5 Days in Fallujah is coming out soon,
Oh
and
yeah,
that's getting a
yeah.
lot of heat behind it. And I understand why. I understand why that's a sensitive topic, but I don't have an issue with a controversial game coming out. The fact of the matter is, for me, is that they just told a bad story, and it became a left wing versus right wing thing, and that the whole game, it just got lost in like politics again.
And it comes back to the sort of the culture war that's sort of going on in the various mediums. I don't Audiences don't like to be lectured to. Okay, not everyone's going to see the, I guess, the sort of the Californian kind of viewpoint on the rest of the world. Because I mean, this game and a lot of others are made in California now, anyways, and they're, I think they're a bit trapped in a bit of a bubble there at the moment.
Yeah,
But last I heard, like the actual state of California isn't doing too well. That a
not
lot of
doing too
people are
well.
actually getting out of it. So
Yeah, I heard Joe Rogan jumped ship to Texas or something. So
Joe Rogan, Elon Musk, a lot of comedians, conservative commentator Ben Shapiro left.
yeah, I heard
It's not only that; it's even just sort of like regular people there. It's just because there's a lot of problems: high taxes, a growing homeless problem.
yeah,
People not able to basically afford basic housing. They've sort of like cut the normal working middle class kind of out of California because much of their sort of revenue is based on either big tech or Hollywood stars that are already living there. And
yeah,
unfortunately, I think COVID sort of really sort of brought that to the surface. But that's a whole other topic entirely. But it does paint a broader picture of what's sort of going on, especially with films and games. And look, The Last of Us was part two is probably the most egregious example of this. And this is another sort of landmine, but I definitely want to comment on it because you made a very, very, very good video on this. It was your video on Anita Sarkeesian, basically,
oh god,
and
no.
the fact that she actually might have had a hand in influencing the design or the storytelling aspects of the Last of Us sequel.
Anita Sarkeesian and how she got her hands on The Last of Us, and a lot of people were a little bit confused as to why I disliked her a lot. A couple of my friends messaged me and they didn't really know who she was, and they were confused as to why I was like so against her having any involvement in The Last of Us. So I thought, for those of you that don't know, I will explain who Anita Sarkeesian is, why I dislike her so much, and why it bothered me so much that she was a part of The Last of Us. So to begin with, Anita Sarkeesian is a Canadian feminist media critic, blogger and public speaker. She also runs a YouTube channel called Feminist Frequency where she regularly uploads content around sexism in video games and gives anecdotal, keyword there, anecdotal evidence to support her claims. But a little bit of research will basically show you why this woman is lying to you and wasting your time, literally wasting your time. Yeah. So like anyone that plays video games or anyone that plays video games knows who Anita Sarkeesian is. She's basically a leech. She's been there for I don't know how long now. I think she was there before the Gamergate days. We all know that she's a fraud, but for some reason she continues to influence very powerful companies like Naughty Dog into stupid decisions. And from what I could see, Neil Druckmann came out on stage. I don't know where he was. It looked like a university, but he was talking about how Anita Sarkeesian's politics had sort of influenced, or her ideas about women had influenced the design of The Last of Us. Because apparently, The Last of Us originally was going to be about a game where the virus only affected women. And
Huh.
just like if you say that to someone, especially with the way the world is now, they're gonna think, oh, the person making this is a misogynist. But
Mm.
my whole thing was is that
Yeah.
if you tell a good story, it can infect only men or women, and I'll listen to the story. If you tell me a story where the virus is the misogynist and it's attacking women, then okay, fair enough. Like, but if you're telling a good story, it's not about misogyny or sexism or whatever. So she got her pause on The Last of Us, and I think that's part of the reason why it turned out that way. It's not the whole reason. She's not to blame completely, but Anita Sarkeesian for the longest time she's just been screaming into the air about radical feminism and whatnot. And thankfully, like men and women don't really listen to her anymore because it's very clear that she's completely full of shit.
Well, didn't you point out as well that her own YouTube channel was using stolen clips? It was basically she got debunked several times, and as a
Yeah.
result, turned off her comments and is just basically plugging her ears.
Yeah, so she will steal clips and then not credit those people. And I understand loads of YouTubers use clips from other videos in reaction videos and whatnot, but they credit the person. They won't make out like they're the ones playing the game. She would go as far as to make comments about games that she's never touched in her life. And I understand a child doing that. I understand a child saying something to look cool in front of their friends, but she's a grown woman who owns, I think she owned that feminist frequency thing. So on some level, she has a responsibility to not talk complete rubbish and at least give credit where credit is due. And she wasn't doing any of that. And I saw it. I saw The Last of Us Part 2 coming out. I thought, let me comment on it. And obviously, I think that's the most popular video on my channel.
It
But
is, yeah, it is. So
with that
obviously,
came a lot
yeah,
of flack and a lot of people in the comment section or on Twitter like calling me a misogynist or whatever. And it wasn't about that, because if the shoe was on the other foot and she was doing it about men, I'd say the exact same thing. She just happens to be pushing that agenda and using women to push her agenda. I don't know.
well, to be honest, like I definitely like it, your take on it is, I think, at least honest. You know, I know you're trying to be as balanced as you can without having like an ideological edge, and that's a very difficult thing to do in this day and age. You know, it's
Yeah.
in the United States, they tend to have a saying like you're on either one side of the road, the other, or if you're in the middle, you're just going to get run over, basically. And I'm
Yeah.
just like, nah, just check that shit at the door sometimes, you
It's
know?
good. I think it's good to be in the middle personally. I have views that might be considered libertarian or conservative or liberal. Um, I think people that sit on one side of the aisle completely, I find it weird. There's no way that like someone could tell, maybe there is, but I can't sit here and tell you that I completely agree with one side. There's views that I have that would be considered liberal, and there's views I have that would be considered conservative. But with gaming, much like everything else, people seem to be playing teams, even if they don't agree, because this team is left and this team is right. They will 100% side with whatever they want to, and abandon their morals or beliefs just to play for a team. If you know what I mean.
Yeah. It seems like the mask is slipping a bit, and I don't want to make this too political, but it's going to go there anyways. Because I want to bring up your observations of the Game Awards, and it kind of almost, in my mind, it almost parallels what's going on with sort of the Oscars as well. There's just sort of like sort of like a big sort of brick wall, sort of ideological sort of brick wall going on. I mean, with the Game Awards, you see like The Last of Us Part 2 just get like all these awards, wherein the reality was like after it was released, and I think the you mentioned Jeremy from the Quartering as well. They yourself and him basically covered the fact that the game Ghost of Tsushima
Yeah.
essentially was it did not only damage control for The Last of Us Part 2, but it had a better review, like better scores in terms of the users on Metacritic, and
Yeah.
it did better by the Sony fan base as a result as well.
Yeah. So
And it didn't get a single mention at the awards apparently.
yeah, it won Player's Choice, which to me should be the most important award because we're the ones that fund these companies.
And the winner,
Ghost
as you
of
may
Tsushima,
know, we
man,
announced
come
it
on.
online. Congratulations to Sucker Punch. Ghost of
Thank you,
Tsushima.
because the players know what's up.
Yeah.
So for me, it was like, why do these critics have so much like say? Like, why is their say so powerful when we're the ones that pay money for these games? And if we're saying that Ghost of Tsushima is the game of the year, that should be the game of the year, not a bunch of suits that probably have an agenda choosing the game for us. So I was live streaming when that happened, and one after the other, The Last of Us was winning award after award, and I was just sitting and I was like, this isn't a case of me being salty because my favorite game didn't win. This is just a case of the players have spoken. Ghost of Tsushima is the most popular game. It's sold, it sold like crazy. I don't know if it outdid The Last of Us, but it either came pretty close or it ended up eclipsing it. But my
Mm.
point was that it's players' choice, which means the players around the world have chosen Ghost of Tsushima. So for what reason is The Last of Us winning Game of the Year? Didn't make any sense to me. And it also didn't make sense that they omitted the fact that although The Last of Us sold over 4 million copies, it was returned more than any other PlayStation exclusive at the time. I
Oh
don't know if
wow.
that stat still stands, but shops were actually rejecting The Last of Us Part 2 being returned to them. It was being returned in droves. So I think that should play a part in Game of the Year.
I think I gave away my copy once I was done with it. So just to put it in perspective, I think there is some truth to that.
Yeah.
And yeah, you point out sort of critics as well, because I think there's a real there's a disconnect, I think, between sort of a big company like Sony, the critics or journalists, and then just your everyday consumers. And the thing is, if you want, even if you're like one of the biggest companies in the world, you still want to maintain goodwill amongst your consumer base. So
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on there.
I don't really understand it myself. It's clear, like, I mean, most things today, no matter what side of the aisle you're on, people are obviously pushing their beliefs on others. And that was no more evident in the Game Awards, where The Last of Us was winning awards that even like, I remember there was an award, I think it was like for best soundtrack or something, and Doom Eternal was in there. And I'm not the biggest Doom fan, but I can appreciate the music in that game. And The Last of Us won again.
That soundtrack was amazing.
Yeah,
like what
I've
Mick
heard the
Gordon
soundtrack.
did was amazing.
Yeah, I've heard the soundtrack on YouTube, and I was like, I don't need to play this game to understand that the music in this game, if not Ghost of Tsushima, which I loved, Doom should win it. But The Last of Us won again. I don't think The Last of Us has a bad soundtrack. I just don't think it was the best one of the year, but it was just winning everything. And I imagine if they do a Last of Us Part 3, which they probably will, it will probably end up winning again, no matter how bad the narrative is or how, it didn't even launch with a multiplayer. So there's no replay value, which to me is something else that people should consider with Game of the Year. Ghost of Tsushima has tons of replay value. It has an online that they gave to us completely free out of the blue. So I don't know what happened there.
Nah, there's definitely something going on there, some kind of dodgy dealings. I mean, we've ragged on Last of Us Part 2, but there were a few goods in it. You had some good moments in the game. Technically, it was sound. I mean, I remember running it with like little to no bugs. Yeah, sound design, it was all great and stuff like that.
Yeah,
worth winning 15 awards or being nominated for multiple awards? Probably not that much.
I think one thing I liked about Last of Us a lot was the sound effects. Like you mentioned earlier, when you shoot someone, you really feel like that you can hear someone dying. It really did like emphasize how brutal the world was. And it was a gorgeous looking game, but like almost all the awards, I don't think it was worth that. It seemed to me like, again, there was a political agenda being pushed.
Well, you've definitely already sort of covered quite a lot of hot topics. And again, anyone interested, go check out Mike Hollow's YouTube channel. The thing is, like, there's always going to be a need for, there needs to be checks and balances in place for these kind of acts or behavior. And I feel like it's only really sort of like independent people on YouTube that are doing that. You're not going to get that from journalists. You're not going to get that from like, established game magazines like your Kotakus, or definitely not IGN. That's why they turn to folks like you. They turn to the Quartering. Sometimes I pick up news from other ones like Young. Yeah, sometimes Jib Sterling, but lately I've been finding him a bit too antagonistic. But he's each to their own.
Stuff, apparently, I think his channel got demonetized or something. So
yeah, well, he's got his spicy moments. I mean, one thing I did want to bring up whilst we're on the subject, because I had a feeling we'd probably be talking about video games for quite a while. I liked what you sort of had to say, you calling out basically the journalists' frenzy around the disastrous launch of Cyberpunk 2077. Now, I actually picked up Cyberpunk 2077. I bought it off of Steam around sort of, just after Christmas. Actually, it got given to me as a present from my wife on Christmas Eve, now I remember. Booted it up, downloaded it. There were bugs, not necessarily game-breaking bugs as such. Quick auto-save later, or auto-load later, reload, and it usually works fine. I went into it without the hype, basically. I kind of ignored any trailers, and what I got, when it works really well. Like, it is really a cut above the norm. But I think part of the problem with a lot of the backlash was the fact that it was CD Projekt Red, who basically cut their teeth on the Witcher games and maintain like a good reputation, and all of a sudden a shitstorm happens, whether that was because of the disastrous launch, the hype behind it, but it was kind of just a combination, just waiting to explode. And then journalists just come frenzying on top of it. And it was just like,
So there were a few things with Cyberpunk. I was the first one to say I was not hyped for Cyberpunk. I'm not hugely into the Cyberpunk style of like the look or the aesthetic. It's not my thing like at all, but I picked it up anyway. I unfortunately faced game breaking glitch after game breaking glitch, and after 3 hours, I just turned it in. I haven't turned it on since.
Was this the console version?
Yeah, so I've got a PlayStation 5, but I had the PS4 version running on there, and I was told that it should be able to hold up on the PS5, but I was falling through floors. I couldn't finish some missions. I couldn't even get past the tutorial at one point. There was a part where you sit in a chair, and I think they're upgrading your arm or your eyes or something, and the game just stopped running. And I was like, that's it. I can't take it anymore. But my problem with the media coverage around Cyberpunk is that the game journalists were so ready to shoot the game down. Some of them didn't bother playing it when they claimed to. I made a video about that, about one woman in particular who didn't bother playing the game. So this says Cyberpunk 2077 is the game of the year in the same way that Hitler was Time's Man of the Year. Do you understand how absurd that is? And she was just shooting it down. And it was because, again, they were framing it that I don't know why they were framing it like this. I found it so weird, but apparently a lot of Trump supporters wanted Cyberpunk to come out. I found that incredibly weird. But yeah, I found it very weird. And they were saying, oh, these toxic gamers, they're doing this, that, and the other. And the thing is that there was plenty of things for the game journalists to cover that CD Projekt Red did wrong. Like, for example, they didn't give reviewers a console copy. I think initially to review, they gave them a PC copy.
Yeah, that's a bit dodge.
There was that. You can criticize them for that. You can criticize them, in my opinion. I don't like the game. I don't think it's very good. I don't think it was worth the hype. And you can criticize them on the actual game design. But what they did is they went after gamers who they thought had a certain political leaning. And again, it turned into this whole thing. And my problem is that I have an argument with one of my friends in particular, who I won't name, and he seems to think that I'm right wing, but it's not because of that. It's because these people are over here talking a whole bunch of nonsense, and I feel the need to point them out on that. But as soon as you do that, you have a certain leaning. I'm sure that you've been in a situation where you've had to point something out to someone, and then they automatically class you as having certain beliefs or having this like absolute belief on the world. So for me, the game journalists just completely messed up everything. They had plenty to criticize on Cyberpunk, and they criticized gamers.
Yeah, again, that's the politicization of culture just coming in, and it doesn't belong. There's really no room for it. Now, I get, if it's in America, it's First Amendment, freedom of speech rights, and all that. Yeah. If you're going to have the space for these kinds of articles, you got to have the space for people, as you said, just to call it out. There's nothing right-wing about that.
Saying certain things on YouTube or Twitter does, unfortunately, like I've been the victim of it, where you'll post a certain topic and suddenly like your video will be demonetized, or you'll get that yellow dollar sign, which basically means we can't run ads on your video because you're saying something harmful or saying something we don't agree with. And for me, YouTube never used to be like that. People could say and do whatever they wanted. And I think obviously to an extent, rules need to be enforced. It's just that YouTube are very much on this, like, you can't say this thing, but then they'll allow a bunch of like videos where people are abusing animals to be on their platform. And I find it really weird that they're not paying attention to things that matter. They're paying attention to people that have opposing views.
Yeah. And isn't another contradiction, specifically with Twitter, is they'll have porn and porn clips on Twitter, on the site, and they'll have them running. But they won't have differing points of view. That's just like,
yeah, I find it really weird. Like, I mean, if you're gonna let people say egregious things on one side of the aisle, you need to let the other side say it. It can't be one set of rules for someone and another set of rules for another bunch of people. And if people want to post explicit images on the website, that's fine if that's what Twitter allows. But then you can't turn around to someone for posting a clear joke or a meme and suspend their whole account. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, well, this is one of the reasons I don't do Twitter. I never done Twitter. I mean, originally when I think it got founded in the early sort of was it 2008, 2010? I just saw it like this is a platform for celebrities just to just do their thing, basically. You know, what's in it for regular Joes kind of thing. But it seems like now it's garnered it's kind of like the major source for a lot of news, if not all news. I mean, I don't understand how that happened, but there's a complexity in running a machine like that, I'm guessing. But the problem is, if you're going to please one sort of base, you're going to disappoint another. So I think that's like the big conundrum that's going on at the moment. I just kind of wish it only affected one area as opposed to a lot of culture abroad.
They just need to be fair, basically. I remember watching the Joe Rogan episode with Jack Dorsey and Tim Pool.
Oh, yeah, that's a great one. I like that one.
Tim Pool called them on all of their BS. They didn't really have a single coherent response, or they made excuses and they just went back on everything they said. So I mean, if you're gonna act like that, then people are obviously gonna call you out. But we've seen, I mean, Steven Crowder recently got demonetized on everything.
Yeah,
apparently.
Saw that.
And I was sitting there and I watched Louder with Crowder, and I was sitting, I was like, yeah, he does make some really crude jokes sometimes. Some of his jokes can be distasteful, but they are jokes, and I don't think he's inciting violence or hate or whatever. But I don't know, like the culture wars have just gone out of control.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a very worrying prospect. Like I was saying to another person I was interviewing on here, like, you know, especially during lockdown, you know, you had a period of sort of like, you know, sort of nationwide camaraderie where we were trying to come together and, you know, do all clap for the NHS and, you know, trying to help your neighbors out. And then that just kind of went to shit quickly. And basically I was just saying to him, I hope after nearly a year of all this, that we don't actually come out of this more divided, you know, just give people get out of lockdown, give people back the things they used to enjoy, used to get distracted by, meet up with people, interact with people face to face, as opposed to, you know, just texting arguments to people, you know, hopefully it can settle down after that.
One thing that I found is that I think people just talk a lot on the internet. I don't think in person we're as divided as the internet makes it seem. Because I've been to loads of areas where, like, you know, obviously I'm half black, my girlfriend's Asian. I've been told by numerous people, oh, you know, don't go to the countryside, this, that, and the other, or these people are not going to talk to you, or even people that have different political views to me. On the internet, it makes it seem like no one can get along or you're going to fight constantly. But when you meet these people in person, they're not actually like that. So I think Twitter and YouTube and mainstream media, they fan the flames. I don't think we're as divided as, you know, Don Lemon or whoever makes up.
No, I think you're right. I think there's a reality that exists on the internet, and then there's the actual reality. There's like two worlds just kind of clashing, it seems. The only problem I see, and again, I don't really want to go down this route, but boy, this escalated quickly. You're seeing a clash of that. You're seeing a clash of that with all the, well, basically the violence that's happening as well. I mean, shit, did people really just get this angry off of stuff they saw online? I'm not naming anything specific, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, I don't want to get your YouTube channel in trouble, but I think it's very clear that being locked inside has definitely worsened relationships between people with different views. I mean, it's never been great. Obviously, there's been terrible acts of violence since I've been alive, but I really feel like it's escalated quite badly, and I don't think it's right to condone any kind of violence, whatever your beliefs are, because I've heard a lot of people saying, oh, the only way to get any action is through like riots and whatnot, and I don't think that's the way to go about it. I also don't think that you should, be storming anything. It's nonsense on both sides, in my opinion. But unfortunately for me, it's kind of hard to have conversations with people about it because people get very in their feelings. So I've kind of just taken a step away from it and focused on the business side of things for me.
Yeah, probably for the best, but that isn't the only YouTube contributions you made. I mean, for a short time, you had the Fright Fest channel where you were actually trying to go ghost hunting.
So as we were walking along, Shanice claimed that we had bumped into something, but I couldn't see anything and neither could anyone else. Unfortunately, we weren't able to pick up anything on camera. I don't know if this guy was possessed or not, and we really couldn't see him too well in the dark, but we were right next to the famous St. Nicholas graveyard, so we really didn't want to stop and interview him for any questions. Yeah, so we're still planning on doing that. We've shot 3 episodes, but only one's on the channel right now. The issue is that because of the lockdowns and not being allowed to be with too many people, our concern was that if we go to these locations in a car full of people from different households, we're just going to get stopped and fined £10,000. And it wasn't, I mean, at first, I was very much against that. This is nonsense. They can't just lock us down like that. But the reality is that I can't afford to pay the government £10,000. So we were just like, let's put the brakes on it for now. But yeah, we've shot 3 episodes. We never really reveal the name of the places we're going to because I don't want someone to show up one day when we're filming and it turns into a whole thing. But one of the locations we went to was extremely creepy and we only managed to shoot half of the episode. So I'm hoping that now that things are being eased a little bit, we can go back there and finish it off. But that's definitely a YouTube channel that I'm going to be putting a lot of time and effort into. And it's something that I've always wanted to do. My mum is of the belief that we've always grown up in haunted places. So I thought, why not put it to the test? Because I can be a bit of a skeptic.
It licked me in my eye.
Yeah, I can see it. I can see it. I can see it. Jesus Christ, it's huge. See that? Hey, ghosties.
With every ghost hunt, we endeavour to eat a crap ton of food in the most creepy looking locations. So we found a spot, we put our cameras down, we decided to start eating. So in this episode, we decided to start basic and go with McDonald's. The breakdown of the order was 3 large cheeseburgers, 2 chicken legends, 2 large chicken selects, 1 chicken mayo, 52 chicken nuggets, 9 large fries, 1 medium fry, and 6 bottles of water.
These woods are meant to be super scary, like, and haunted.
So it was fun while it lasted. And the premise was that we would pick a different set of food every time we went to a haunted location and find the scariest part of that place, sit down, start eating, having a conversation and film and see if anything happens.
That's a clever idea. A different take on the whole ghost hunting genre, which seems to have all but disappeared off of television in the last few years.
Yeah.
But no, it's a good idea though, and you're never going to be short of very old, very haunted places in the UK. I mean, if you especially if you go out to like the countryside, you find some like old churches and chapels and that sort of thing. You're talking like buildings that are like nearly a millennia old. I mean, most people don't even realize, but a lot of the, we've kept up a lot of the structures, even smaller buildings in the UK for centuries. I mean, think about it. Like most of the architecture in the United Kingdom is much, much older than say anything you're going to find in the North American continent.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there is no shortage of places that you can go. And my whole thing was, it kind of sparked because I watched, I don't know if you know, there's a guy on YouTube called Nuke's Top 5. And he posts, I think he's the most popular horror channel on YouTube. He's coming close to 4 million subscribers. And he does a weekly show where people will send in clips of like ghosts that they caught. And whilst I was growing up, my mum would watch Most Haunted. And I always thought that they were just completely full of shit. And then it came out that one of their mediums was just faking everything.
Yeah.
So when I started watching Nuke's Top 5, if you've never seen it, I couldn't recommend that channel enough. It changed how I thought about like the supernatural, because these were just regular people going about their day and like weird things would happen to them and they'll send their clips into him. And he's got hundreds of videos now of top 5 videos. And I was like, I want to try my hand at this because my mom has always claimed to see ghosts. Now I don't necessarily disbelieve her, but I don't believe people off the bat. I believe in ghosts. I just don't believe the stories that people tell me. So I thought, why not go and try see it for myself?
What was your first half episode like? I mean, what was that experience? I mean, I've seen parts of the video, but what was your sort of take on it, sort of filming and kneading and all that?
Well, the first episode that we put up, we did it in the Screaming Woods. And the Screaming Woods are, I think it's in Pluckley, which is meant to be the most haunted. It's meant to be the most haunted town in the whole of the UK. And so I went up there with a couple friends, and we didn't see anything. We heard things, but we don't know because we were in a forest, and it was all right. But we did one in Epping Forest. We managed to complete that episode. I just haven't uploaded it yet. and that was pretty terrifying. I'm pretty sure that we all saw stuff, we just didn't see it on camera. We were sort of holding the camera here, but we were so scared, we were sort of looking around us. And I thought I saw something, but it could have just been someone in the woods as well. It's hard to say. And the third location we went to was definitely the creepiest. I won't say where it is because we haven't finished filming there, but um, I'm a little bit scared to go back, but I'm quite excited as well because I'm fairly confident we're probably gonna have something going on there.
I'm guessing you could say that your skepticism has waned even more since doing this then.
Yeah, I believe in ghosts, and I believe that there's another side. But I just don't know what it is. I don't understand what it is, and I'm just interested. Um, my skepticism of people's stories will always be there because I think people just like to tell a good story, but I definitely think they're out there, and the people that we've got on the team are pretty determined to also find some sort of evidence.
Yeah, and there's been too many recorded unexplainable events and anomalies throughout history to simply completely dismiss it. I mean, I'm on the fence about that sort of thing, but at the same time, I don't think I would actively go search for something like that personally.
You can come join us on one of the episodes.
You know what? I might take you up on that. If you want to see a man just shit his pants just right there and then, it could probably give you a 50% good chance of that happening.
When the lockdown eases, we're definitely going to try and do more and invite more people on. It'll be good to have different personalities on there.
Well, one thing I'll definitely agree to go to is just a complete change of scenery, because I'm getting very tired of seeing the same walls in my own home for so long now. And I imagine that's the same for a lot of people. So
yeah.
I'll take any
as much as possible.
I'll take any field trip I can do, in fairness. So now we touched upon this lightly before, but I wanted to bring this up, and I'm not too clued up on it, but you had a sort of a history in competing in, was it sort of Mortal Kombat and Injustice, basically NetherRealm game tournaments, like ranked matches and stuff. I mean, first of all, like, how did you get into that? What did that involve? Did it involve like actual sort of on-site tournaments, or was it just you just being really fucking good at those games?
So I've grown up playing fighting games. My parents used to take me to Trocadero. Don't know if you remember. It used to be up in London.
Yes. Sega World used to be there in the 90s.
Yeah, and there was Namco World, but I was very young, and the guys there were much older than me, and they were obviously way better. So the arcade scene was like where people that loved fighting games would go, and Trocadero was local to me, so I would go there and I would play Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat or like Virtua Fighter. And from there, when consoles started getting better and they started releasing Mortal Kombat on console, I started playing it more there. But that wasn't actually the first game I competed in. The first game I actually competed in was back in like 2008 or 2009 with Street Fighter 4. And me and my friend were very like competitive against each other, and that sort of drove us to get better at the game. And then from there was Soul Calibur, there was Tekken, which I'm still playing, and then there was Mortal Kombat.
All the good ones.
Yeah, and Mortal Kombat sort of took off for me. When Mortal Kombat 9 came out, I found this tournament called Ultimate Clash. The video is actually still online. You can still find it from 2011, and it was me in like the grand finals against a player who went on to win the EVO World Championship, which is the biggest fighting game tournament in the world. And we were in the finals, and I ended up beating him. And from there, I just sort of continued playing it, and there were definitely people better than me at the game, but I was always up there. I could always compete. I'd get first, second, third.
First game goes to Hollow. Okay. Go for fatality. The disrespect. No respect right there. Portal 2, you know. Portal 2, yes, oh no, Portal 2. Think about that. Oh, you got roasted.
All right.
The Hollow wins it. Oh man, now like just dropping a few links. Really cold. I don't know why. But it's a good game though.
But as time goes on, I didn't have as much time to dedicate to competing, so it sort of waned a bit, and my interest in Mortal Kombat sort of like waned as well. I don't like Mortal Kombat 11 too much. I'm sort of just waiting for a new fighting game to come out that piques my interest again. But yeah, I've always loved competing. I've competed for around 12 years now. So yeah, that's pretty much my competitive history.
Yeah, and you did sort of do sort of leaderboards in certain games and rank pretty high, right? I mean, can you name some of those?
Yeah, so Mortal Kombat 9, when I was no, sorry, not Mortal Kombat 9, Mortal Kombat 10, when I was playing it, I was the number one ranked player in the world for a time. I think that lasted maybe a month or two. I had about 1,000 wins and literally I think like 3 losses.
Oh wow.
And that translated over to Soul Calibur, which I was the number one ranked player on there for around a year. That's where I got popular from Soul Calibur, because I would go to tournaments and they would say, "Oh, are you Hollow? Are you the guy that uses Algo?" And I started competing offline. And Soul Calibur is a very old fighting game as well, so a lot of the people there were much older than me. And I was competing with them and I was beating them, and I'm still friends with a lot of them. And yeah, I just continued playing that game online. I remained number one for a long time, and then I moved on to Mortal Kombat 11, I think, or no, I started playing Naruto Ultimate Ninja Storm. And I got pretty high on the leaderboards, and I think I was top 10, but it had connectivity issues. And so, yeah, whenever I play a game, I always strive to get to the top of the leaderboard. And once I hit that number one rank, I'm like, okay, I've done that now. I'm not interested anymore. I'll move on to something else.
just like being like, yeah, I'm done. I've done it.
Yeah. I lose interest very, very quickly. I think the only one I didn't lose interest in was Soul Calibur 5. And that's just because one of the characters in the game, I felt like his moveset was tailor-made for my play style. So I played that game for, I think, maybe like 5 or 6 years.
Well, you mentioned your favorite character in Soul Calibur. I mean, what were your sort of choice picks for, say, Mortal Kombat and the other games? I mean, I saw you playing with Noob Saibot on one of your videos.
Yeah. So my thing has always been, I've always like gone for the boss characters. I've always favored boss characters. So in Street Fighter, I used Bison. In Soul Calibur, I used Algo. In Tekken, for a long time, I used Kazuya, but I switched over to Feng Wei. And in Mortal Kombat, for a long time, I was using Scorpion. Now, he's not the boss character, but he is sort of like the poster child of the Mortal Kombat franchise, and he did end up beating a lot of the boss characters. So for me, I always chose like strong male characters. That was always what I'd go to. Even in Street Fighter, when I'd switch around from Bison, I'd go to Akuma, or I'd go to Urien, or I'd go to Gil. So I just sort of like those big, imposing characters that have like these scary movesets that sort of like intimidate people before the match even starts. That was always my thing.
You're playing mind games with your opponents almost.
Yeah, that's why growing up watching The Undertaker a lot, I was like, this guy beats people before he even gets in the ring. So that was always my thing.
Yeah, taking a trip down memory lane there, especially bringing up wrestling like that. Yeah, and Tekken, I used to really play a lot, like back on PS1, like Tekken 2 and Tekken 3 were sort of my go-to games for ages, although I kind of spammed Yoshimitsu quite a lot because he had the craziest moveset in my opinion. And he had a sword. All right. You bring a sword to a fist fight. Come on.
Yoshimitsu was always scary to fight because he was so random. You never knew what was coming. And he was like that in Soul Calibur as well.
That's right. Yeah, they had him in Soul Calibur from, was it Soul Calibur 2 onwards? He was like an unlockable character to begin with.
Yeah.
He wasn't out of place though, in fairness, thinking about it. And most of the moves were the same.
There was a whole story behind it about how the two universes were connected, but one was like 700 years in the past and Tekken was in the present.
Well, with Soul Calibur, like Yoshimitsu looked like, just sort of a weird looking human samurai, where in Tekken he looked like a samurai cyborg machine.
It was like, I think it was like a samurai space ninja or something. I can't remember what they called him, but yeah, he's always been someone that I've wanted to use, but there's always been another character I gravitate towards.
Only Japan could have ever come up with this stuff, especially like from the 90s onwards. You only need to look at like 80s and 90s sort of like anime just to get a good sense of like where their brains and creativity just travels.
Yeah, definitely.
This is a trip down memory lane right there. Yeah. So what are you doing with yourself now? Obviously, Majik Treats is sort of the main sort of outlet and stuff like that. What's the sort of future hold for you at the moment, like future plans and all that?
Well, I mean, like, obviously with the way the world is now, everything's very uncertain. So me and my girlfriend are just like keeping money like very close to us and just sort of like saving as much as we can. Me personally, like I've taken the stance of like if we're gonna beat whatever this is, that I need to be as strong and healthy as possible. So I'm in my gym every day training. In terms of work, it's not been great because everyone's on furlough.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to make the most of it. I'm gonna be making a return to YouTube fairly soon. I took a month break because I felt a little bit burnt out and I felt like I was kind of tired of just arguing with people about things that I found obvious. It was very much a case of I would say something and I didn't want to attract the wrong sort of attention. You'll say something online and suddenly a group of people think that you're on their side. But for me, it was never about playing sides or like playing for a team. It was just I'm just saying what I want, what I believe in. And I got tired of doing that. So I'm thinking of ways to reinvent the channel. And yeah, just taking one step at a time. We're gonna obviously be doing a lot of things with Majik Treats. We're constantly trying to like build the brand and find ways to spice up the company, and just spending time with my girlfriend. Really, that's all there is to it.
Fair enough. No, tell you what though, I'll give you props. You definitely got big balls for a lot of the stuff you said and done, sort of especially on that YouTube channel. So you got my salutations, sir.
I will still be doing commentary on things. I just don't know, like I want to do it in a different sort of way. Maybe I'll do a thing where I'm speaking to people directly rather than speaking into an echo chamber because I'm well aware that, as much as I appreciate all the people that subscribe to me and follow me, those are all people that agree with me. And I'm very much, I'm into like speaking to people that oppose me so that I can look at them in the eye and see where they actually stand on things. So I'm trying to think of things to do. And obviously Magic Treats keeps us very busy. So I'm just trying to find time around that. So yeah, stay tuned. I'll be uploading again soon.
Excellent, excellent. Before we wrap up, there's one more question I want to ask is because I got no idea, but are there any particular sort of like games or videos or movies that are coming out? Like, for example, you looking forward to the new Mortal Kombat movie coming out?
Yeah, I think it looks really cool. I'm a little bit disappointed with some of the design choices. Like Melina, I don't really know why she's a black chick now. I don't know if they're gonna change Katana to a black woman. I don't really understand what's going on there. I don't understand why Johnny Cage is missing from the film. But other than that, the film looks really, really cool. I saw Justice League the other day, the Snyder Cut. I thought that was infinitely better than the theatrical version. I've actually seen it.
I've not seen either, so I got some catching up to do on that one.
Yeah, I won't spoil you, but the Snyder Cut is definitely it's just a better film in every way you can imagine. It's better. But I think King Kong and Godzilla is out tomorrow or today, so I'm gonna watch that with my girlfriend. In terms of games, to be honest with you, it's been very quiet on the gaming front for me. I recently completed Spider-Man Miles Morales, which I thought was a really good game, but it's very short. I went through the whole Yakuza series. The only one I haven't played yet is Judgment, which I'm going to be playing soon because they're doing a PS5 remaster. Other than that, I'm kind of just waiting for a new fighting game to come out that really like grabs my attention so that I can again do content for it on my YouTube channel. So that's pretty much it for me.
Yeah, I think coming back to what you're saying about games, like I think the gaming industry at the moment, it's in that sort of quiet in between phase at the moment as it's sort of changing consoles and generations. And I've always said to myself, like, I'm not going to get any new consoles until at least sort of 2 years into its cycle, because at least then, it would have built up a good repertoire of games or games library. Even then, I'm not even sure if I'll pick up a PS5, to be honest, because I mean, I got a nice, powerful PC doing this and running games at very high frame rates anyway. So, yeah.
I've got
master race,
PC
man.
as well. So for me, I was like, I'm not going to buy a PS5, but luckily through the Mortal Kombat tournaments that I won, I think last year or the year before, because I was playing for a team and we were doing like nationwide tournaments, and my team ended up winning three times in a row. So what happened was that we ended up accumulating enough money on our card to pick up a PlayStation 5 essentially for free. All I paid for was Demon's Souls. So I was like, okay, well, if I've got the money on this card to get it, I might as well get it. If I didn't have that, I couldn't recommend anyone getting a PlayStation or an Xbox right now because there is nothing really to play on them. Honestly, like all I've played is maybe for the PlayStation 5 Spider-Man and Demon Souls. Everything else is still PS4 games.
I was tempted by Demon Souls because I love the Souls games, but again, that's a remake and that's just one game, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah,
It's not worth a whole console.
No, definitely not worth a whole console. But nah, give it time. We'll see what happens. But at least then, I hope the creative juices kind of start flowing for a lot of developers. And to be honest, like I think I'm having a bit more faith in indie developers, especially if like AAA developers are going to get, as we discussed earlier, a bit more ideologically driven in their narratives and design.
I think Steam has got a lot of like really cool indie games in there. I've picked up some horror games in there. But I've seen some cool things for next gen consoles coming. It's just the problem is everything gets delayed now, and what we see on YouTube is not necessarily what is going to be sold to us. So I'm kind of just waiting. I have a lot of trust in Sega, so when Sega puts out a new game, I usually gravitate towards that. But other than that, I'm not really playing any games. To be honest with you, I'll wake up, me and my girlfriend will like do a workout together, or go and eat. We'll put on like an anime or something and get on with the business. I haven't really been gaming much, and that's why my YouTube channel has gone a little bit quiet. But as I said, though, I'll have a return to it. There is a Demon Slayer game coming out that me and my friend are going to do some work on. So, yeah.
Nice. All right. I think we've covered just about everything, mate. Tell you what, do you want to give your links sort of down just for audiences to check out your work on the Hollowverse, Majik Treats, all that?
Yeah, so you can subscribe to me on YouTube. It's the Hollowverse, or if you type in Mike Hollow, I should come up. Majik Treats is instagram.com/Majik Treats. We also have a website, magiktreats.co.uk. I'm not really using Twitter right now, to be honest with you, just because of all the nonsense going on. But yeah, if you're looking for some tasty treats, definitely give us a follow on Instagram and send us a DM and we'll sort you out. We do UK-wide delivery.
Awesome. Anyways, thank you again for your time, Mike. And we'll no doubt cross each other's paths again soon, I imagine. We'll have a bit of a chat after this, but look after yourself and give my regards to Maj as well. And tell her to keep up the good work and more Nutella on those brownies, please.
Oh, don't worry. She's definitely going to be putting in some hours soon for some treats that we got coming up.
Treat her right. Anyways, take care now.
Take care, bro. It's good to speak to you.